Do you believe in a parallel universe? Do you think that we are living in a simulation, or that there are multiple dimensions out there? Well, whether you do or don't, these stories that I'm about to share with you will definitely get you pondering the meaning of life. Because after reading these stories, I don't even know what to think anymore, honestly. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. I'm your host, Lindsay Ivan, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the top 10 scary glitches in the Matrix experiences. Now, what does a glitch in the Matrix even mean? Well, the name comes from the Matrix movies. When in the film, when a glitch would occur, the characters knew that they were in a simulation. Because on Earth, we shouldn't experience glitches, right? Glitches only occur in games or computers. Then why are they occurring on Earth? I honestly wish I knew the answer to that question. Starting off at number 10. The Reddit user Watermelly3 posted this story. So she states that her experience happened a couple of years ago when she went to pick up her husband from the ferry after work. While pulling out of the parking lot, they noticed two individuals heading to their car. These individuals were strangers to each other. One was a man reaching into his bag, while the lady had her head positioned to the right. She claims that these individuals were completely frozen in these positions. The wife and the husband sat in the car watching the frozen strangers, and they were completely in shock. Then she claims that it was like someone pressed play on a remote and they just continued on like nothing happened. Now, there is only one explanation for this. Adam Sandler got hold of the remote from the movie Click Again. I love that movie. Kidding, but seriously, that's definitely a huge glitch to experience. Moving on to number 9. One night, a group of friends and roommates were hanging out together in their apartment. Now, one of the roommates just got a new phone, and she was sitting on the bed using it while all the other girls socialized. There was a moment when the roommate placed the phone down to be involved in the conversation. A few minutes later, she reached for her phone and it was gone. The girls call for it, but they can't find the phone. They strip the room and bed apart looking for the phone, but it's nowhere to be found. The girls began to become weirded out since no one had left the room during the conversation. They ended up going out to her car and they found the phone in the car, locked in the trunk. They were all in the same room, witnessed the girl on the phone and placing it on the bed, yet somehow it teleported down 3 floors and into the trunk of the car. That is so trippy. Unless the girls were heavily under the influence, there's no reasonable explanation for that. Let's move on to number 8. This next story comes from the Reddit user White Zombie Cat. Now, this man recounts his and his wife's experience with a glitch in the Matrix. He states that he went out with his wife for dinner one night. When he returned home, they opened the door and he saw his wife on the computer doing work. He claims that he is normally greeted with this image when he arrives home from work, except it was impossible this time because his wife was right beside him. Later that night, he tells his wife what he saw and she claims that she too saw herself sitting at the computer. I mean, I was going to say maybe his brain created the image in his mind since he stated that this is what he normally sees when he opens the door after work, but then he said that his wife saw it too. That's so strange. Moving on to number 7. This next story happened a couple of years ago. One day, this woman was in Best Buy when she came across the last book in the Stephen King series, The Dark Tower. The front of the cover had a picture of the character Roland in front of the tower with a field of roses behind him. She was a little confused as to why this book was in Best Buy, but she just continued on with her day. She was a fan of the series, had read the first 6 and wanted to buy this last one, but her money situation was tight at the time, so she just put the book back down and planned on buying it the next week. However, when she returned the following week, it wasn't there. A month later, she went to Barnes & Noble to get the copy when they said it had not come out yet. It was to come out in 6 months. When the book did come out 6 months later, the book cover was exactly how she remembered it. Now, authors do send out copies in advance to certain people to promote it, but she can't fathom how someone could accidentally leave this book on a shelf in Best Buy. What do you think of the story? Is Stephen King just really good at marketing, or was it a glitch in the Matrix? Let me know down below. On to number 6. Now, Disney World is known as the happiest place on earth, so nothing freaky or glitchy would happen there, right? Well, wrong. Think again. This next story surrounds a girl and her family when they took a trip to Disney. She was 6 years old at the time and she and her family went to watch a parrot show. In the middle of the show, she had to go to the bathroom, so her mom took her while her dad stayed with her sister to watch the show. When they returned from the bathroom, the whole place was empty, so they decided to go back to the bathroom to wait for her dad and sister. They waited there looking for them for 2 hours before deciding to go back to the hotel to wait for them there. However, while waiting at the bathroom area, the girl saw a lizard and squirrel fighting. This may sound insignificant now, but Just hold on. So when her dad and sister finally returned to the hotel, they claimed that they too were waiting at the same spot outside of the bathrooms for them. They never saw each other, but both of the sisters said that they saw the lizard and squirrel fighting from the exact same spot on the bench. How is that possible? How did they both see the same thing from the same position, but they weren't even together? Like, seriously, what is going on? We are now at our halfway mark with number 5. This next individual posted a story about meeting someone who no longer exists. In October of 2018, this woman developed tendinitis in her hand and had to go see a hand specialist. The hand specialist was a Vietnamese woman with glasses and straight dark brown hair. She describes this woman as really happy and talkative. She even said that they had an in-depth conversation about her tendinitis and how this woman attended a conference that discussed the rise of people developing tendinitis from their phone usage. Now, the specialist stated that if after a few weeks her hand wasn't getting better, to come back to be re-examined. So a couple of weeks later, she returned to see the same doctor. However, the woman appeared completely different. This woman was Caucasian with no glasses and light brown hair. They had different personalities, were not the same woman, but had the same name. The woman then described to the new specialist of her encounter with the other woman. This new specialist said that it was only her there with that name. Later, she did some research and looked at the hospital directory, but still couldn't find the Vietnamese specialist. She even double-checked her records, and both of her visits say the same doctor's name on them. So it wasn't like she did see two different people. So she claims that she met someone that no longer exists. Now, I was thinking about this. Was this woman an imposter? Probably not. But maybe her other doctor wasn't in during her first appointment and she had the Vietnamese woman as a replacement for that day. Now, there are tons of studies that prove that even our brain can play tricks on us and our memories can fail us. So let's say that she went to go to the office, her doctor wasn't in, and instead she saw the specialist that was filling in, which was the Vietnamese woman. Maybe she didn't catch the woman introduce herself, and since it was just her first time there, she just assumed that the Vietnamese woman was just the regular specialist she would be seeing. That's the only logical explanation I could come up with. If you have any more theories, let me know down below. Alright, moving on to number 4. This story happened about 15 years ago. This one man called up his friend, and when there was no answer, he left a message on his answering machine. In the message he said, "Hey, it's me. Sorry I missed your call you later. Bye." He went on with his day until he got a call from his friend asking what the deal with the message was and asking who the girl he was with was. But he stated that he wasn't with a girl. So the friend brought him over to his house and they listened to the message together. After his message that he recorded, there was about 30 to 40 more seconds of him talking to some girl. He knew it was himself because he recognized his own voice and mannerisms, but he doesn't know who the girl was, nor does he remember even leaving that half of the message. He claims that the conversation that he had with the girl was about going skiing and then him having to go to his car shop and work on his car first. Then the message ended. To this day, he can't explain what happened or even figure out who the girl he was talking to was. Next, we have number 3. Now, this next individual got a little lost while on their way to a location due to a train station being under construction with lots of restricted areas. So in order to find his way around, he was using Google Maps. Now, Google Maps instructed him to go through this one path that was off limits. There was a plywood wall with a sign that read "Under construction, unauthorized access, forbidden, no entry." However, he claims that people were entering and exiting through this door like it was no big deal. He also said that these people looked out of place. They weren't construction workers, but they were still going in and out of the restricted area. Now, he thought that since other people were doing it, that he would trust Google Maps and go through it as well. He decided to follow a guy in through the door. However, when he emerged through the other side, it was an empty area completely under construction. The guy who he followed in was nowhere to be seen. Google Maps was telling him to keep going along this unpaved path. However, a man driving a construction tractor drove by him and gave him a weird look. He knew that he was out of place, so he decided to head back. When he went back through the door, other individuals were looking at him weirdly, just as he did when he saw the people. So basically, people were spawning and despawning out of nowhere. Literally as if they were just being created or deleted from a game. Maybe he just dreamt of this situation, or maybe Google Maps literally pointed him in the direction of the spawn point for humans in the world. We are now at our second spot. This one is by far one of the trippiest ones. It was submitted by the Reddit user Musical Michael Moses. He states that him and his buddies were returning home from a road trip. He just got off the phone with his parents and told them that they would be home in about 25 minutes. However, as they continued driving, they rounded the corner and the road ahead of them was completely empty. There were no cars ahead or behind them. He then claims that everything went black for a moment. The dashboard lights went off and even the headlights. Even the music stopped playing. Then everything went back to normal. The CD restarted from the beginning and they now could see a car ahead of them being pulled over by a cop, which wasn't there a second ago. Now, the passenger just shook it off, thinking he fell asleep and then woke up later on. But the other passengers in the car all experienced the same thing, even the driver. The scariest thing of all was that the clock showed that it was an hour later. And when they arrived to the house, even their parents asked what took them so long, when they said they were only 25 minutes away. So all of them lost an hour of time and don't know what happened. Some people believe that they were tired from the road trip and dozed off. But everyone at the same time, and even the driver who somehow still managed to steer the car, doesn't make sense to me. And he's one good of a driver if he can drive while sleeping. And in our number one spot, we have the man who called himself. I mean, I hate answering my phone as it is, but imagine picking up the phone and talking to yourself on the other line, because that's literally what happened to this next dude. In the early 2000s, a man by the name of Taylor was working as a corrections officer in a juvenile detention center in Oklahoma. Now, one night he arrived at work and his supervisor asked him what he was doing there. Apparently, he called in a few hours prior to his shift saying he was sick and couldn't come in. For that moment, the whole night kept getting weirder. He went on to look at the notes taken from when he called in sick. It was noted that he called in at 6:50 and said he was sick while outside cleaning up after the storm. Taylor said that there was a storm the night before, but there was nothing outside that he really cleaned up. Continuing on, he was a little freaked out and decided to call his wife to talk about it. But when he called, a man answered the phone. He checked the phone to make sure that it was the right number that he dialed, and it was. Taylor asked this man who he is and he says, "This is Taylor. Who is this?" Taylor then asks Taylor where his wife Ann is, and the man says that she's in bed. Now Taylor rushed home to check on his wife and found her on the couch watching TV. He tried to call his work from home, but the phone line was dead. When he returned back to work, his buddy Dave told him that he picked up the phone after him and the guy on the phone sounded just like him. But he witnessed Taylor leaving, so it couldn't have been. Later on that night, he found out that the phone line had been knocked over that night before by the storm. Whew. Now, one guy commented saying that he believes in one reality, Taylor went outside to fix the phone line and that's how he got sick. He then called into work saying he couldn't come. But in the other reality, the other version of Taylor didn't go outside and didn't get sick, which caused a glitch and is why he was able to communicate with himself. And that is all of the stories I have for you today. I literally don't know what to think. I have a whole new perspective on life now, honestly. Have any of you experienced anything like this? Let me know down below. And as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 for more amazing videos.